Welcome to the 5-Pack, where we talk about the 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter, and a daily pack rip. Here is your host, Kyle Elfrink.
Yes, indeed. Back with you on a Tuesday here on the Better Sports Network. A Tuesday where I arrive with scissors. What am I going to do with scissors? No, do not call the police. We're not going to do that live on air. We'll never do that. No, the reason I need the scissors today is because for our pack break coming up at the end of this edition of the 5-Pack, we will revisit another rack pack, which is obviously a term that is lost to time. Nobody says rack pack anymore. But if you grew up from like 1986 to 94, you know what a rack pack is. This rack pack features 1988 Fleer baseball, which is actually, of all the Fleer and all the baseball cards that we have opened up here on the 5-Pack, we have never gotten to the 1988 Fleer baseball. So we'll finally get to it today. What was the advantage of the rack pack, for those wondering? Well, you could sell 3 at a time, and I guess you would get some sort of discount, although this is a very interesting pack. I was looking at this morning. You can see right there, Toys R Us. That's where this was originally found. Of course, Toys R Us isn't with us anymore. And you see there at the bottom, $1.29. $1.29! And I realized it was 1988, but my gosh, 45 baseball cards for $1.29? Nowadays, you got to pay like, I don't know, $35 for 45 baseball cards. But back in 88, the glory days of collecting, you could get 3 packs, 45 cards for $1.29. So I'm looking forward to this Fleer set. Fleer, kind of like Donruss. When Donruss and Fleer arrived in 88, and we've done a lot of, let's see, I've got an 88 Donruss here. I think this is 88. We're going to get to these later. In 1988, both Donruss and Fleer just said, screw it, we're going to produce 1 trillion of these things. Before 88, Donruss and Fleer had kind of been elusive. Like, you didn't see it everywhere. I mean, I remember going to ball games at the old Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and I remember this distinctly. They sold 1987 Fleer baseball cards, and it was like, wow. You know, where I was from, 87 Fleer baseball card. You never saw those, but they were at the ball. Well, then in 88, I guess Fleer answered the masses, and they said, okay, here goes. We'll make sure everybody can get their hands on 88 Fleer baseball. And to this day, what are we, like, my God, is it really 35 years later? Whatever it is, we're going to open it up coming up on the 5-Pack. That should be a lot of fun. Before that, though, we've got 5 things that matter right at this very moment. We've got 5 things that will matter as you go into your Tuesday, and we're doing it all as we do each and every day, 12 to 1 o'clock, right here on the Better Sports Network. Again, I am Kyle Elfrink. Heather Klein is our producer on this Tuesday. Great to have her on board. Let us start digging into the fun. Let us start digging in to the things that matter, and let us start with a little baseball. And of all the places we could start, of all the good storylines, of all the big successful teams, let's go to Cincinnati, Ohio, right? Let's go to Cincinnati, Ohio. We told you about this yesterday. The Cincinnati Reds. Yes, that team. They're the hottest team in baseball. They were looking for their 8th consecutive victory. Or excuse me, 9th consecutive victory. Don't shortchange them, Kyle. They were looking for their 9th consecutive victory last night, taking on the Colorado Rockies. Back in front of the home fans, had a great weekend in Houston. They swept all 3 games. And the news got better leading up to Monday's series opener against the Rockies, because news came out that legendary, yes, legendary Cincinnati Red lifer Joey Votto was returning to the Reds. He was going to make his season debut. Now, if you have not followed the Joey Votto storyline, former perennial all-star, he's now 39 years old, by the way. He's been with Cincinnati his whole career. Last year was pitiful at the age of 30. Terrible. He had shoulder issues, biceps issues. I think he had a double surgery in the offseason. Got to spring training this year, and it wasn't really working. Wasn't feeling right. So they said, okay, let's take it slow. You're 39 years old. Let's rehab. Let's get you right. He goes on his rehab assignment. Still not working. Joey Votto yanks himself off the rehab and says, I'm not ready. He eventually gets back to rehabbing in the minor leagues, and he starts to look good. He's starting to hit. So yesterday, we got the news, Joey Votto's back. And they're paying him a lot of money. You know, this happens. Miguel Cabrera, Albert Pujols, these guys make a ton of money at the end of their career. But Joey Votto, if you have not followed the story, is an impossible guy to dislike. A, he's Canadian, so you know he's a cool guy. Beyond that, Joey Votto has really embraced kind of the Twitterverse and the Instagramverse and has almost made a joke of himself and of the whole back and forth in social media. It's really entertaining. Now, I'm not somebody who follows Joey Votto on social media, but I have seen plenty of highlights. And the guy, he can make you laugh. It's good stuff. So he's back in the lineup. It's exciting. Reds are playing well. They're taking on the Rockies. They're looking for their 9th straight victory. Joey Votto making his season debut. Well, we had a Hollywood ending last night in Cincinnati.
Bash to right! His first game back! Joseph Daniel Votto! He said he was ready, and he delivers. Hard up the middle, base hit. India scores. De La Cruz, green light. He crosses on a slide. Joey Votto, the Reds ahead. He has blitzed all 3 batted balls tonight.
There it is. Joey Votto, 3 ribbies. You saw the go-ahead hit, a 2-run single in the 6th inning. That ended up being the game-winning hit as the Reds win it 5-4. Bally Sports Ohio providing the footage there. A great return for Joey Votto. And I was thinking to myself, watching these highlights, I mentioned he's 39 years old. And, Joey Votto's actually had a huge amount of success. I mean, he is a borderline, some would say he is, but I would say borderline Hall of Fame player. He's had success in Cincinnati, both as an individual and with the team. They made plenty of playoffs in his early days. With that win last night and kind of with that atmosphere, I kind of felt like I was watching Joey Votto make his major league debut again. And he had an interview after the game where he was kind of just gushing about being back and the fan base and how it's finally exciting again to kind of be with a team that's winning. Because the last 4 or 5 years have not been very good for the most part with the Cincinnati Reds. But lo and behold, they get that win last night. Check out your NL Central standings. If you look at them right now, guess who's in first on June 20th? And we've said it time and time again. I get it. The teams aren't very good. But whether it's the NL Central or the AL Central, a baseball fan loves the race, loves the back and forth. We can sit here and mock, these guys are going to get eliminated in the first weekend of the postseason. But you know what? That's not till October. We got the rest of June, July, August, September. I hope we've got 3 or 4 teams in both the NL Central and the AL Central constantly, night after night, jockeying for the playoffs. And the one good thing about this is something we don't get in baseball much anymore. Back in the day, back in 1988, when Fleer baseball cards were coming out in rack packs, back in the day, if you didn't win your division, you didn't make the postseason. Like you were actually playing to get to the postseason. Nowadays, we don't have a whole lot of that because we got 3 wild cards. And usually by the time we get to the end of the season, there's 7 teams in both the AL and the NL that are still alive. And, it's not all that dramatic. The NL Central and the AL Central, as weak as they are, may at least give us some drama this summer. Because, again, if the Reds and the Brewers are going for it into the last 2 weeks of the season, there is a very, good chance, very distinct chance that the loser of that race doesn't make the postseason. So there is drama. There is playing for something. And we've seen it before. I mean, I'm not going to tell you the Reds can beat the Braves, but we've seen it before. Baseball's crazy come October. Wild card teams make it to the World Series all the time. So anyway, it's fun times in Cincinnati. Like I said, they're up in the NL Central. Tonight, 7:10, game 2 between the Reds and the Rockies. Noah Davis against Ben Lively. Don't look at me. I don't know either. Noah Davis, Ben Lively, what? Reds are minus 190 to secure their 10th straight victory. And if you're looking at NL Central odds right now, Cincinnati plus 425 to win the NL Central. Cincinnati, not the only team that's on a big winning streak. Let's go to item number 2 on the 5 things that matter on this Tuesday. And we go from Ohio to California. We go from Southern Ohio to Northern California. Got to talk about the San Francisco Giants, who don't have a 9-game winning streak like the Reds, but they do have an 8-game winning streak. And last night, they did it in very fine fashion with an extra inning walk-off win against the San Diego Padres.
High drive, right field, it is out of here, and we are going home. And the Giants win their 8th in a row, and another come-from-behind win. What a game. Did somebody let Mike Yastrzemski know that all you needed was a sacrifice fly?
And all he does is take the 3-1 fastball challenge middle in and put it in the pond. A splash hit walk-off. And Jock Peterson knew it right off the bat.
Doesn't get old, does it? Watching a walk-off home run like that. Also doesn't get old to splash the ball into the bay. I believe that is ball number 102 in the history of that ballpark to make it into the bay. Mike Yastrzemski with the second of 2 home runs last night. And that win last night was pretty damn impressive. The Padres were up 4-0 halfway through that game. The Padres were up 4-2 in the 9th inning of that game. Obviously, the Giants came back from 4 down. They came back from 2 down, and they came back to win it 7-4 at the final. This Giants team, is it unexpected like the Reds might be? Well, the Reds are, nobody said the Reds are going to win the NL Central. The Reds really were looking at 2 years from now, when all their youth were growing up. But because the NL Central is so weak, a team like the Reds or the Pirates, they have a chance. In the NL West, you don't have weak teams. LA's there. San Diego has crazy good star power. Even a team like Arizona, playing really, really well, maybe a year ahead of schedule, they're solid. I mean, the only laugher in that division is Colorado. So San Francisco, what they are doing, and they're still in second place. I think they're 3.5 back of Arizona, but they've now won 8 in a row. And if you look at this team, there's no star power here. There's no Buster Posey. There's no Madison Bumgarner. It's a team. I was looking at their roster today. Their 25-man roster has 7 rookies on it. So, we think of San Francisco, big spender, and yeah, they've spent money, but heck, the guy they spent money on, Mitch Haniger, he's out for like 2 months with a broken wrist or forearm. They didn't get Judge. They didn't get Correa. It's a surprise what they're doing. They're ahead of the Dodgers, by the way. Now, to win the NL West, San Francisco plus 425. So what was it for Cincinnati plus 425? Now, Cincinnati's currently in first. San Francisco 3.5 games out. Giants will look for 9 in a row tonight. It'll be Anthony Desclafani on the hill against Seth Lugo. Start time there is 9:45. Had the highlights there courtesy of NBC Sports Bay Area. They will have the coverage tonight. If you're looking at tonight's game exclusively, the bet here, Giants or Padres, Giants are minus 115, Padres minus 105 on that money line. Let us go to item number 3. We're kind of crisscrossing the country here from the Midwest to the West, all the way back to the East. Let's go down to Miami, Florida, where he's back. We thought, 2 weeks ago, Luis Arraez, he fell under 400. We thought, okay, great run. You had a good 2 months. Wow, you were hitting 400 in early June. And then there was a quote-unquote slump, and he fell to like 385. It was fun while it lasted. Well, he's back. Guess who is back to 400? It is Luis Arraez. Last night, a pretty epic effort in a blowout win against Toronto.
Payoff pitch coming. And right back up the middle, there's a base hit.
Paul, how many times have you sent right back at you?
I know, I got to expand the vocabulary here in the stretch. So we might as well be comfortable. Let's see. What am I going to say this time? Scorched into center. Thrice is nice, and he's the first to 100. A 3-hit day again for Luis Arraez. In less than 70 games. Well, he's going to have himself a 4-hit day again. You've got to be kidding me. 1 and 2. He did it again, and this time he's going to drive in a run, maybe 2. Here comes Birdie, he'll score. 5 for 5 for Arraez. And he's back to 400.
A perfect 400. Bally Sports Miami with the calls there. Heather Clyde, our producer, just mentioned it there in the chat. She's totally right. 2 up the middle, 2 out the left, 1 over to right. Yeah, I get it. They're singles. He's hitting 400. Folks, he's hitting 400 on June 20th. Let's dig deeper. He had 5 hits last night. Now think to yourself, how often does any player have a 5-hit game in the season? Even the best hitters don't get 5 hits in a single game. You may have a guy get it once. I don't know, twice. Luis Arraez has now had 3 5-hit games, not just this season. Luis Arraez has had 3 5-hit games this month. The month is not over, by the way. How epic is that? I think he's the 4th guy since 1900 to have 3 5-hit games in a single month. And looking at him, you heard on the broadcast there, he's up to 100 hits, first guy in baseball, actually 102 hits now. He's hitting 430 over the last 30 days. 430. He's got a 450 on-base percentage, best in baseball. Here's another one. Luis Arraez, all he does is hit singles. This one will shock your buddies. People will be falling off bar stools everywhere. Next time you're hanging out with your baseball friends, and I say next time, you're going to have to check the stats. But if it's tonight, maybe you're meeting up with 3 baseball-crazed lunatics, and you start talking about Luis Arraez. Don't bring it up when you're talking about Arraez, but maybe later in the conversation after a few beers. You say, okay, guys, okay, baseball-crazed lunatics, who do you think leads baseball in intentional walks this year? They'll guess a lot of people. Will they guess Luis Arraez? He's got 6 intentional walks this year. Number 1 in baseball. Number 1. Another thing with Arraez. Oh, he doesn't do any damage. Yeah, he doesn't hit home runs. I get it. But look at this. 67 games this year. He has 35 RBIs. Not bad. The guy's hitting the top of the order. His career best for RBIs in a season came last year. He had 49 runners driven in over the course of 144 games. He's up to 35. So we may get to end of July, and he's already set his career best for RBIs in the season. It's a fun storyline. Miami's playing good baseball. Don't look now, but after last night's 11-0 win over Toronto, the Marlins are now 11 games over 500. Last night was the 10th time in their last 17 games that their pitching staff has allowed 2 or fewer runs. They're 13-4 this month. Now, they're doing all this damage. They are not making up much ground on Atlanta. The Braves are still a considerable favorite to win the National League East. They're up by 4.5 games on the Marlins. But Miami is putting distance between the Mets and them and the Phillies and them. So it's shaping up well right now to make the playoffs, not to win the NL East, but to make the playoffs, minus 130. So the Fish are kind of a favorite to make it to October. Tonight, 6:40, game 2 of that series with Toronto. It'll be Yusei Kikuchi against the rookie Uri Perez. Perez, by the way, 4-1 with a 1.80 ERA. Let's go to item number 4, and we didn't really see it last night in Miami. I think the attendance there was like south of 13,000. Don't tell anybody. It's kind of sad, isn't it? Miami got a team 11 games over 500. You got a dude hitting 400. You had 12,000 people out there. Anyway, let's leave that. Let's talk about the good news when it comes to Major League Baseball attendance. You may have seen this number yesterday, but I wanted to bring it up today on the 5-pack. Major League Baseball having a big rebound in attendance, like a strong rebound. For decades now, like 2-3 decades. Oh, baseball's getting old. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to the games. Not so fast. This past weekend, and they've done this a few times this year, big attended weekends. And Major League Baseball flashed up a graphic. I think we got it. You can kind of read everything there. Things seem to be working for baseball. Now, the one I'll point you to is the 4th one down. Sunday's total. This was Father's Day. Sunday's total, over 600,000 fans just for Sunday's games. That is the largest Sunday since September 28th of 2008. That's 15 years. You just had your biggest Sunday. Now, again, you had Father's Day. There were 2 games between the Red Sox and the Yankees, although those 2 games were at Boston, at Fenway. Over the weekend, the games averaged more than 35,000 fans per game. This is all, and again, you can sit there and nitpick and say, well, Oakland wasn't at home. Like, you can sit there and do that. But the fact remains, you just had your best attended Sunday in 15 years. And you had one of your top attended weekends in like half a decade. This is important for baseball. Like, we went through all these rule changes to try and get people excited. I don't want to sit here and say, oh, look at the rule changes they've been at. I will say, as a baseball fan, as somebody who sits there and watches baseball and listens to it every single night, the game is more enjoyable. I'll just say that personally. I'll tell you another thing that helps. Check out your standings. Now, it's June. Maybe we'll look at this in August, but check out your standings. Cincinnati, Arizona, Tampa, and Minnesota. They're all leading their divisions. I mean, certainly in the case of Cincinnati and Arizona, they haven't been there in a long time. Tampa Bay is usually good, but second, third. Minnesota is usually good, but these teams are competing. There are a lot. Here's another thing. Everybody's competing. We have 30 teams in Major League Baseball. 30. Check this out. 24 of the 30 teams entering today's play, 24 of the 30 are within 5 games of making the playoffs. Wild card helps, bad divisions in the NL Central, AL Central help, but still 24 of 30 right now. You know, the old joke is hope springs eternal in March, and by the end of April, half the league isn't going to make the playoffs. Right now, 24 out of 30 fan bases have hope. They're within 5 games. Now, a month from now, maybe that number is 18. Maybe it's 19. Who knows? But right now, it's 24 out of 30. And for people who've looked at this, what drives attendance? It's not giveaways. It's not cheap seats. What drives attendance is winning teams. Teams that have a chance. 24 of the 30 currently have a chance. That's what drives attendance. So I did want to point that out as something that matters today. Finally, our 5th item that matters today, we go to the world of the NBA. News coming out yesterday that Draymond Green, who's a lifer with the Golden State Warriors, well, he may not be a lifer for much longer. Draymond Green opting out of the $27.5 million player option. Can I just say that all I ask of our Savior, Lord Jesus Christ, at some point, can I turn down $27.5 million? right? Isn't that what we all want to happen? I'm so successful I can turn down a guaranteed 27. Okay, here's the thing with Draymond Green. Legend in the Bay Area. You know, he's been a part of all these titles with Steph and Klay Thompson, Steve Kerr, all that. He is 33 years old. He's a bit of a troublemaker. I think that's fair to say. I mean, hell, he punched his own teammate last year in practice. He is a defensive stalwart still. You talk about bodying up. Draymond Green bodies up. Offensively, you know, he's so-so. But he's a glue guy. He's a super glue guy. Probably more valuable to Golden State than any other team out there. In fact, if I'm sitting here making a bet now, Draymond Green is back with the Golden State Warriors. What we have occurring here is Draymond Green, 33 years old, is saying, instead of taking $27.5 million for next year, maybe I'll take a 3 or 4 year contract and I'll take $22 million a year. Which you might sit there and scratch your, okay, that, you know, that gives Draymond the money, the contract. How does that help the Warriors? It helps the Warriors out a ton. They are in salary cap hell. You know, and they got another contract they're going to maybe have to give to Klay Thompson. Like, they got a lot of money. Like, I was reading a number, and again, the NBA salary cap is a mystery wrapped inside of a riddle, tied up in an enigma. It's really tough to do. But I read something that for every $1 million that the Warriors are going to go over the cap this year, and they will be over the cap, they will pay a penalty of $7 million on top of every $1 million over the cap. So if they're like $20 million over the cap, they have to pay another $140 million in penalties. That's how the NBA cap works. So Draymond Green saving them money and kind of spreading out his money per year actually helps them a ton. So I think Draymond Green is back with Golden State. I don't think this is it for Draymond Green. If you go over to DraftKings right now, in their sports books, you can actually make some bets on, you know, guys like Draymond Green or Kyrie Irving or Damian Lillard, who we're going to talk about later. You can make some prop bets on where they will play their next game. Right now, Draymond Green, his next destination, minus 170, is back to Golden State. I totally agree with that number. If you want long shots, Lakers are plus 550, Dallas is plus 800, and Phoenix is plus 1200. So Draymond Green will officially become an unrestricted free agent, but don't be surprised at all if he's back with Golden State for next year and beyond. Okay, we'll take a break here. I think the morning crew, they've got some thoughts coming up on Draymond Green. When we come back here on the 5-pack, I've got some thoughts on 5 things that will matter. Still to come, we'll rip open a pack of 1988 Fleer Baseball. It's all coming your way next, right here on BSN.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to talk about the drama from last year, let's talk about it, right? Somebody called Draymond Green an old man, and Jordan Poole got decked for it. So, yeah, a lot of drama going in there, and I do believe that that was something that people started to worry about with the chemistry of the Warriors. So, I think he's a little nuts for turning down $27.5 million for that, but he'll probably get that or at least close to it on the open market if he does go. Breaking bread, eating croissants with LeBron in France, I don't buy that either. There's lots of talk now that the Heat could use him defensively, but man, I hate to say it this early in the morning for me, but I agree with the fantasy executive. Steve Kerr is right. He wants him back, and they're going to need him back if they want to win again.
Welcome back to the 5-pack. Next up, the 5 things that will matter. Here's Kyle Elfrink.
Just got that highlight there. Howard Bender, Corey Parson, Britt Flynn, Andrew Cooper. That is the brand new morning show that we have for you here on the Better Sports Network. It is called A Better Morning. You can catch it each and every day, Monday through Friday at least, at 8 a.m., where the crew is talking over the biggest sports news of the day and getting you set for the day to come. We kind of do something similar here on the 5-pack. We're kind of your midday update, if you will. 5 things that matter, 5 things that will matter. Let us get into the 5 things that will matter, and we're back to the world of baseball. Why not have some Shohei Ohtani discussion on the show, right? We need more Ohtani in our lives. Shohei Ohtani's bonkers, 24 home runs. I think we've all seen that tweet on Ohtani. Like, he leads the Angels in everything.
Are they the black ones?
Batting average, home runs, RBIs, OPS. Then you go to the pitching side, and it's like Ks and like the guy is amazing. The other guy who is usually amazing in Anaheim, we got to get him going. Coming up later tonight, LA versus LA, the Freeway Series. Shohei Ohtani is raging hot right now. Mike Trout, not so much. Mike Trout not really getting it done. I was looking at the numbers today, and we'll flash them up here momentarily. Mike Trout has an OPS. You can see some of his numbers there at the bottom. Mike Trout has an OPS of about, I think it's 130 entering today, which is good. That's 30% above the league average. Do you realize that the lowest OPS plus that Mike Trout has ever had is like 167? So you look at these numbers down below, and just to spell it out for you, Mike Trout, what is it, 15 home runs, 39 RBIs, hitting 257. You know, the OPS is in the 800s. The runs scored, 46. These are good numbers, but they're not Troutian numbers. Meanwhile, Shohei Ohtani, his numbers are off the charts. Here's the key. Ohtani is hot right now, killing it as a hitter. It's been much better as a hitter than a pitcher this year, by the way. Trout, not so much. Tonight, the Angels are up against the LA Dodgers. It is a short 2-game set that opens up against the Dodgers. Now, there's a lot going on here. We got star power, Freeway Series, all that stuff. Angels are playing pretty good baseball right now. Like, they're second place in the AL West. Dodgers, meanwhile, are third place in the NL West. I do wonder. I mean, and the Angels are like 41-33. They trail Texas by, 5 games. They're fighting back and forth with Houston. Like, the Angels are not assured of anything. But I do wonder, is there any chance of the Angels, if they play good baseball, if they make the playoffs, can they keep Ohtani? Because the rumors all suggest this is Dodgers. That's where he's going. Dodgers, that's where he's going. But finally, the Angels look kind of good, decent, playoff worthy. Will that shift anything for Shohei Ohtani? I don't know. Tonight, they'll be up against Clayton Kershaw. I was looking at the numbers. Check this out. Clayton Kershaw, in his career against Ohtani, he has retired him all 8 at-bats. Ohtani is 0 for 8 against Clayton Kershaw. Mike Trout's not much better. Trout is 4 for 20 against Clayton Kershaw. Tonight, they'll get rolling. It is a 10-10 first pitch for that matchup between the Angels and the Dodgers. We'll see if Ohtani maybe takes aim at home run number 25. If he does, it'll probably be here on the 5-pack come tomorrow morning. Well, Shohei Ohtani is killing it. Let's revisit a story of a guy who was killing it in April. Item number 2 on what will matter. It's talking about the Marlins and the Blue Jays. Last night, the Marlins win 11-0. The Blue Jays get shut out. It was also continued struggles for one Matt Chapman, soon to be free agent at the end of the season, has fallen and fallen and fallen. This is crazy. At the end of April, what was that, a month and a half ago? At the end of April, you could make every case that Matt Chapman was like one of the top 2 or 3 AL MVP candidates. At the end of April, this guy was hitting over 380. His OPS was 1150. He had 20 extra base hits. He had 21 ribbies. Since that point, and this covers 44 games since the end of April, here are the numbers for Matt Chapman. He is hitting 187. Remember, he was hitting over 380 at the end of April. His OPS, which was over 1150 at the end of April, is now 567 since the start of May. 12 extra base hits and 13 ribbies in those 44 games. A reminder, in April, he had 20 extra base hits and 21 ribbies. Matt Chapman, there's a guy who, like, every time he steps to the plate after earning all that money in April, he's now losing all that money. And part of it, I don't want to blame Matt Chapman for the Blue Jays, but the Blue Jays get shut out last night. Now, overall, their offense is fine, but it's kind of astounding to look at this Blue Jays team. They are 11 games out, 11 and a half out in the AL East. Now, they're totally in the wild card race, but that wild card race, man, it's hellish. Mention the Angels, the Astros, the Yankees, the Orioles, Seattle, the Red Sox. Like that wild card race in the AL is crazy right now. And Toronto's just another team. And I was looking at the schedule, big stretch coming up. Big stretch. We're about, 2 weeks or so away from the All-Star break. Here are the run-up. They got 17 games, so I guess about 2.5 weeks. Next 17 games for Toronto. This is a critical stretch. I would argue the Blue Jays, beginning today, have got to win at least 11 of their next 17, and I say that because of the schedule. Now, Miami's good. They got 2 more with Miami. You follow that up with 3 at home against Oakland. After Oakland, you get 3 against San Francisco. Now, San Francisco's red hot, but still, you're Toronto. You got to take 2 or 3 of those games. You've got Boston for 3. You've got 3 at the White Sox, bad team. You've got 3 at Detroit, bad team. So those are your next 17 games leading up to the All-Star break. Now, again, I think you got to go 11-6. You probably should go 12-5 because this is that moment. Take advantage of the schedule. This is that moment for the Toronto Blue Jays. And maybe Matt Chapman will be a part of that moment. And they're not a bad team. Like they're getting, boat raced in the American League East, but they're totally in it. Bo Bichette's having a good year. Vlad's doing his thing. Springer. Chapman's falling flat. But overall, the team's fine. But they need more. And this is a critical stretch. Last night was not a good start to the upcoming stretch. They got shut out by Miami. So we'll see if that picks up starting tonight. Again, that game, you got Kikuchi going against Perez. 6:40 is the first pitch down in South Florida. Let's move to item number 3 on what will matter. And we've talked a lot about the postseason, odds to make it to October, odds to win a division. I saw today over at The Athletic, they do this pretty well every year. They released their players poll. And we were talking earlier about attendance. And when we touched on attendance earlier, we brought up the rule changes. Well, in this players poll, you can find it at the athletic.com. Over 100 players participating in it. The rule changes were met with mostly, maybe I shouldn't use the word universal, but very strong acclaim. The players give the thumbs up on the rule changes. But what caught my eye and what will matter, over 60% of the players in that poll that was conducted at The Athletic said, you know what, this pitch clock, we like it, but come October, come the postseason, we don't want it. We want it changed. So some of the options were, okay, let's add 5 seconds. I guess I'd be okay with that. Another option was after the 7th inning, we get rid of it. Hell no. A third option was we get rid of it entirely. Heck no. Like, I get it. No way. Oh, man, the drama of the 9th inning, and then we're going to strike a guy out on a pitch count. Yeah, I know it sucks, but you know what? Get over it. I will say, coming into this season, I think all of us expected a lot of pitch clock violations, certainly in the month of April. Oh, there's going to be such a mess, and players won't be ready, and they'll be antagonistic, and they'll be yelling at. Hasn't happened at all. Now, there are some discrepancies from ballpark to ballpark. Players have talked about this. The media has looked into this about when the clock starts. And some ballparks have fast clocks. Some ballparks have slow clocks. So I get that. And hopefully baseball can clean it up. But you don't play the whole season under one set of rules and then you just change them come October. Like, to me, I love the extra inning rule. I love it in baseball. But you know what? They change it come October. Now, that one I can stomach a bit more. I get it. I get the argument on that side. I'll accept it. This thing with the pitch clock, heck no. It's proving successful. October baseball takes like 4 hours. It's awful. We need a pitch clock. We need it badly in October. Now, if they want to add it in 5 seconds, fine. Go for it. But I don't want any other changes. And if you get rid of it or you remove it after the 7th inning, you're right back to where you were. And I'm sorry, that's not a good game. Just isn't. So, hey, if you're going to play 162 games in 6 months under one rule, I can understand a slight change. I don't want a significant change. But over 60% of baseball players in that poll said, yeah, change it. Get rid of it. Moving to item number 4, what will matter. Did you know that Major League Baseball has a scouting combine? We all know about the NFL's scouting combine. Did you know baseball has one? Beginning today at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. It will be year number 3 of the Major League Baseball Draft Combine, and you can actually watch this. I think it starts up at 1 o'clock later today. MLB Network will have it. Now, what is the Draft Combine? Well, they are expecting like close to 300 players, high school and college, to all be there over the next couple of days to go through the Major League Baseball Draft Combine. So what happens here is BP, bullpen sessions. You'll work on your defense in the infield and the outfield, like, stuff you would normally expect. Much like the NFL Draft Combine, there's a couple of other additions that are important. One, you meet with baseball GMs, team presidents, decision makers, scouts, which is something you don't get at all in baseball, not before the draft. The NFL Draft Combine, that has been huge over the previous decades. The opportunity to bring these players in, to do interviews, to meet them, to see if their personality meshes with yours, kind of see where they're at in their understanding of the game, their understanding of themselves. That's huge for the NFL Draft Combine, and that's going to happen this week in Phoenix for kids who are 17 years old, certainly for college kids who are 21 years old. So that's really important. The other thing, and I did not know this until I was looking at it today, at the NFL, you, in effect, almost have to go through the medical evaluations. Now, baseball's never had this leading into their drafts. But now with this draft combine, which is, again, in year number 3, they want to put these kids, especially like arms on pitchers, they want to put these young players, high schoolers and college players, through a medical evaluation. Now, if you're a pitcher, that's kind of scary. They're going to find something. They're going to see wear and tear. But what baseball has instituted is if you agree to going through the meds at the combine, you are then guaranteed at least 75% of your draft pick compensation. Baseball has a pretty convoluted system about your signing bonus based off where you're drafted. So first rounders get this, second rounders this, third rounders get that. Well, obviously, if the meds come back and they're kind of negative, you're going to drop in the draft. But baseball still guarantees that wherever you are drafted, you are guaranteed to be offered at least 75% of what your draft's positioning dictates. So it's not a total win for the players, but it is a bit of a carrot to maybe get them interested. And for the baseball teams, it's huge to be able to put these guys, through the exam and kind of figure out where they stand. So that begins today in Arizona. A lot of players, hundreds of players, and guys can move up, just like the NFL Combine. So MLB Network will have the coverage that starts at 1 o'clock today. I think day 2 tomorrow is like a 3:30 start, but you can check your local listings. Oh, I sound like a voiceover. Check your local listings. Check your local listings to see when that is. But 1 o'clock today, 1 o'clock Eastern, if you want to check out the future of Major League Baseball. Let's go to our 5th and final item on what will matter. We hit you with the Draymond Green news earlier. Yesterday, we were talking about Bradley Beal going to Phoenix. Might as well leave with the news on Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers, a lifer. He's kind of like the Joey Votto of the NBA, playing out there in the nether regions of Portland. And Portland's had success with Damian Lillard, but not lately. News coming out yesterday, Damian Lillard would like to stay in Portland. News also coming out yesterday that Damian Lillard would like to stay in Portland, but he wants the Trailblazers to bring in some help. And the way he wants them to bring in that help is to trade the number 3 pick, which is coming up on Thursday night, NBA draft coming up on Thursday. Lillard would like the Trailblazers to trade that number 3 pick and go out and bring in some veteran help. Now, Damian Lillard, to his credit, has had like 3 years of opportunities to say, get me out of here. And everybody else in the NBA does this. It was like Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal. They're the only guys who want to stay with their team. Well, Bradley Beal eventually gave up. He's now in Phoenix. Damian Lillard thus far has not given up. Now, we'll see if the Trailblazers say, now we're going to hold on to this number 3 pick and we're going to get younger. Maybe Lillard will ask out. But right now he says he wants to be here, but he wants help. He wants some more vets. And they're not a terrible team by any stretch, but they're certainly not in the top 4, top 5 of the NBA's Western Conference. Damian Lillard, by the way, is 32. Last season, I was kind of surprised by this number. He averaged more than 32 points a game, 7 assists, and 5 boards. Now, he only played 58 games. The year before that, he played like 30. So it's kind of like Bradley Beal. You got a guy who's really good when he's on the court. You got a guy who can still get it done. You got a guy who can be a top 2 option on your team, even top 1 in the case of Lillard. But you are in your 30s and you are missing games. Now, I mentioned earlier, Draymond Green, you can lay down some money on where he will take his next start. Golden State's the big leader there. You can do the same with Damian Lillard over at DraftKings, their sportsbook. And he is a heavy favorite to stay in Portland. Minus 175, although Miami is plus 110. Philly is plus 1,200. Brooklyn, 1,800. And Boston is plus 2,000. So the expectation, Lillard stays in Portland. Said yesterday, reported yesterday, he wants to stay in Portland. But maybe Miami, maybe Milwaukee in there as well. You know, they missed out on Bradley Beal. So it does matter. You know, you've got a guy who would be maybe the top trade target, especially as we lead up to Thursday. People would love to get their hands on Damian Lillard. They'll give up draft picks. They'll give up the future. We'll see if it happens coming up on Thursday night. We'll have more on the NBA draft, also known as the Victor Wembanyama draft. It's coming up on Thursday. But we'll wait for that. Until then, shall we do a pack rip? We shall. 1988, Fleer Baseball. We're only going to do one of these. Fear not, we'll get to the other 2 at some point. But today we will open up 88 Fleer Baseball. We'll do it next right here on the Better Sports Network.
So I'm definitely not saying this because I'm a Cowboys homer in any way, shape, or form. But it's Zeke, no question. I have no doubt in my mind that Jerry Jones is going to re-sign them so that they have some depth behind Tony Pollard. You cannot tell me that Malik Davis, who runs a 4.71 and only averages 1.2 yards after contact, is the number 2 guy. Zeke may have lost a step over the past couple years, but he doesn't need that burst when he gets those goal line carries. Last season, he had 38 red zone touches, tied with, I don't know, somebody by the name of Christian McCaffrey. I think that's pretty good. Double-digit touchdowns in the 3 of the past 4 seasons, and I think that he's going to do it again with Dallas in 2023. You guys watch. Jerry let him go so that he could take a team-friendly deal and re-sign, but Zeke is coming back, and he's going to score those touchdowns for Dallas.
Alec. Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Yesterday, we hit you with a little football. Today, we are back in our sweet spot with a little baseball. 1988 Fleer Baseball is the pack that we are ripping open. A lot of memories with this set. As I noted earlier in the show, this is when Fleer kind of said, screw it, let's overproduce this sucker. Let's go after tops. Let's do that. So what we got is 88 Fleer Baseball. Now, you may not know off the top of your head what this set looks like, but it's pretty unique. I'll give Fleer some credit. They'd kind of been pretty boring with their design throughout the 80s. And we've had other, I mean, what do we have? We had 1990 Fleer. I mean, this is 90. These are incredibly boring. 1990 Fleer. But this set here is so-so. I'll give them credit, something unique. I love the backs of these cards for whatever reason. I'll get to that in a bit. Of course, we get our stickers. Oh, God, love the stickers. Look at that. The old Tigers and the old Braves. And check out the back of this. See, this is the kind of just cool stuff. If you were a kid in the 80s and you didn't have 15 baseball games at your fingertips every evening on the television, you said, wow, there's Wrigley Field. Man, maybe someday I'll get to watch a game at Wrigley Field. Now, since then, I've watched a lot of games at Wrigley Field. I've gone to concerts at Wrigley Field. But back in the day, and gosh, I don't know if you can tell this. Let me look at this a little better. You probably can't tell this, but this image of Wrigley Field, I believe, had to be taken in 87, 88, whenever. But if you can tell, that is an undeveloped corner of, Waveland and Addison. You can't really tell in this photo if you had it right to your face, but that is Wrigley, no lights. First off, no lights. and you look at those streets. I mean, there's cars driving. There are cars driving beyond the right field wall. You see them there. That doesn't happen anymore at Wrigley Field. So this is back in the day whenever they just had a ballpark plopped down in the middle of the neighborhood, and you didn't have 75 bars and like all manner of let's make money going on. Back when Wrigley was Wrigley. And I did get to go to a game. I want to say may have been around 88, maybe 90. I remember it was a day game, of course, and the Cubs were playing the Reds. I do remember that. And me and the family, we were sitting down this left field. Let me see, about left field line about there. I think in the upper deck under the overhang. Anyway, baseball stickers. That's one thing you still get to this day that's cool. I'm going to have to save all these stickers, find a place to put them. Okay, let's get going with the cards. Let's start with a hero of the 80s, Mr. Wade Boggs. Like I said, I like the look on these cards. You know, I saw it described as a Little Debbie wrapper. I don't agree, man. Little Debbie wrappers are clear cellophane. This is more, it's Hostess, I'll give you that, but these look good, I think. I like how the image of the player fades into the white. I love the emblem. I love the name, the position, all that stuff. And I love starting off with Wade Boggs. So there we go. Dennis Martinez. We've had him before, Montreal Expos. Now, you are still stuck in a spot where 1988, Fleer is not taking action photos too often. It's mainly, hey, can you sit down, hold still, and let us take a picture of you? So you get things like this. Rich Yet. That's with 2 T's. Rich Yet. He looks like a guy who just kind of lived in the bullpen. I wonder if Rich Yet even pitched a game. He did. In fact, he threw 97 innings out of the bullpen. Congratulations, Rich Yet. Here is Ed Lynch. The most
You said you voted there all your life?
that you've ever seen.
I was like, dang.
That's
You're
just
being
crazy. Ed Lynch of the Cubs. I mean, how tall is Ed Lynch? 6'5", big dude. Tall drink of water, Mr. Ed Lynch there. Let's go from the north side of Chicago to the south side of Chicago. Bobby Thigpen. This had to be maybe a rookie season for Bobby Thigpen. You know, there is such a 70s and 80s image on this card. Can you all pick up on it? What's something you would only see in the 70s and 80s that this Bobby Thigpen card is repping? If you said the numeral on the pant leg, you'd be right. Why hasn't anybody brought that back in 2023? It's not a bad touch, man. You got a uniform number on the back, and instead of the jersey front, put it on the pant. That's what you should go for. Okay, here's an action photo.
State Senate seats.
Mike Scioscia, the Dodgers. Of course, he became the Angels manager, won a World Series with the Angels. Mike Scioscia is getting ready for a collision. And I'll tell you this, Mike Scioscia lived for collisions at home plate. Mike Scioscia would not enjoy playing baseball in 2023, where they've eliminated the collision. But here he is, getting ready to block the plate. Oh, man, this screams 80s. I love this one. Anybody pulls this card in 1988, they're amped. Oakland's power team. Look at those two boys, Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire. Man, these guys were ticketed for Cooperstown, right? Look at those two. Man, the high-flying A's, such a cool team. Look how much bigger Jose is compared to Mark. Now, it just so happens that Jose turned to the side so he could flex for the camera. But man, what a 1-2 combo. I love that. We were talking Trout and Ohtani. That's cool. This one was cool too. This was the original Trout and Ohtani. Here's one of my favorites. I remember my brother, huge fan of this guy, had this card falling out of the packs. Loved little Ron Gant action. 30-30 kind of player. My brother did not have as many Mike Griffin cards of the Baltimore Orioles. Didn't bother with those. Oh my God, he's back. We can't get away from this guy. Gerald Young of the Houston Astros. I think we have, over the course of the 5-pack here, we've probably put together an entire set of Gerald Young baseball.
Damn, they just shit on City Valentine. I didn't even see it.
Here is Seattle catcher Scott Bradley. Seattle Mariners. Pretty boring there. Oh, shall we pull up a Major League Prospects card? Now, you might remember in the 70s and early 80s,
over here
Tops would
in
create
the
rookie
community
cards that would feature 1, 2, or 3
on your
different
way
rookies.
towards Glebe Road.
Fleer tried their hand at this. Check out that rookie card. Damon Berryhill and Jeff Montgomery. Now, neither guy became a star. Jeff Montgomery became a pretty good closer in the 90s for the Royals. Damon Berryhill was supposed to be a pretty damn good catcher for the Cubs. That never happened, though. He had a great name. I mean, how can you dislike Damon Berryhill? But neither of these guys kind of lived up to the, I don't know. Jeff Montgomery was good. I shouldn't say that. I think Jeff Montgomery still does broadcasting in Kansas City. Kind of hung around there the whole time. Larry Herndon. Larry Herndon, I mean, that looks like somebody from a wild 80s sitcom. He looks like one of the characters from Taxi. Right? Larry Herndon, look at that guy. And check out that we love when our guys wear those wristbands. Love those wristbands. Up next, speaking of wristbands and arms, Tony Armas. Tony Armas, no one really remembers Tony Armas, but Tony Armas was a decent player. I mean, he had seasons. I'm looking at the back of the baseball card. In 1980, 35 homers and 109 ribbies for Oakland. He had a year, my God, 1984 with Boston. Tony Armas, 43 homers and 123 ribbies. Man, 36 and 107. Give some props to Tony Armas from Venezuela. And then finally, we close down the pack with Scott Fletcher, shortstop for the Rangers. Now, I don't know about you, but I enjoyed this pack. Now, I mentioned the back of the baseball cards. Fleer did this in other sets, too. They were kind of ahead of the rest of the world with kind of looking at advanced numbers. Let's pull up the Wade Boggs. Check out the bottom. Let me pull this up. I got to minimize the window. The bottom of the Wade Boggs at their best. So it would tell you what Wade Boggs did in day games, night games, home games, and road games. Now, to you in 2023, like, who cares? To me, in 1988, this stuff was awesome. And they gave you his batting average, his slugging percentage, and his on-base percentage. You know what they call that now? They would give you his OPS splits. Now, can we all just give it up for Fleer, 1988, giving up OPS splits on the back of every baseball card before OPS was a thing? Before every dude under the sun. It took like everybody else 20 years to care about OPS. They were telling you Wade Boggs day, night, home, and road. I love it. Yeah, and they do it even for Ron Gant, like every ball player. Let's see what they did for pitchers. For pitchers, they would do ERA, wins and losses. So they were not quite as advanced on the pitching side. For instance, you've got Denny Martinez, who I guess, according to the back of this baseball card, how many games did he pitch that year? Let's see, how many starts? Where do we got here? 22 games. And this has got to be an error. 22 games. It claims that Denny Martinez never did anything at night. Right, sure. There's an error. Look at the back of Denny Martinez. That's a lot of numbers. I love it, man. I love it. We get Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, Wade Boggs, we get a cool Ron Gant. We get the prospects, Damon Berryhill and Jeff Montgomery. I'm glad we've got more of these to come. 1988 Fleer baseball. Tomorrow we'll give Fleer a break. I got something special tomorrow.